So, I just came back from Deadpool 2. Good times. Good times.
There's this kid. He's in trouble.
Move or die.
Pump the hate brakes, Thanos. I ain't letting Cable get to him. But I can't do this alone.
We need backup.
We're gonna form a super duper fucking group.
It's time to get back on LinkedIn.
Deadpool 2 is, of course, the follow-up to the wildly popular Deadpool from a couple of years ago starring Ryan Reynolds. This time it's directed by David Leitch and also stars Josh Brolin. You know what to expect from this movie because of the first movie. It is very, very similar in tone, very, very similar in execution. And if you were a fan of the original, like I was, then you can expect a pretty good time here. In the previous film, Deadpool was coming to grips with his superhero abilities and the thought that because he had these abilities, he should be a good, upstanding, moral citizen and a superhero and join the X-Men. And he's been grappling with that ever since. And in this film, he is presented with an opportunity to do some good and protect a child played by the excellent Julian Dennison from New Zealand. People might remember him from Hunt for the Wilder People. He was just fantastic in that film. And here again, he plays a similar kind of character, which I suspect is actually very, very close to his real life persona. He seems like a very witty person, self-deprecating, and he does a tremendous job here as well. Ryan Reynolds, once again, his work as Deadpool, as Wade Wilson, is pretty tremendous. And I think the main reason why is that he genuinely seems to care about this character. Brolin has a very impressive presence. He's a physically intimidating person, and he has a bit of a growl to his voice, a little bit of a stare about him, and he's definitely someone that you don't want to mess with. The first film was hyper violent, very dirty, and very self-deprecating on its genre and of itself and of the tropes that are used in superhero movies. And I was worried that the success of that film was kind of like capturing lightning in a bottle. You know, you found it, it's great, you've got it. It's only good once though. You can't really keep going back to the well and using it over and over again. So I was worried about how this film was going to go. The trailer had funny moments, but it didn't particularly look hilarious. And I was wondering and worried about whether the shtick of Wade Wilson's character would wear off come the second film, whether the introduction of new characters would be successful, drawing some of the focus away from Wade, how they were going to grow the relationship between he and Vanessa, how they were going to grow Wade's character. Where does he go from here? We understand that he probably wants to become, he doesn't want to become a superhero, but probably needs to for an arc. But we don't know how it's going to get there. And is it going to be corny? Is it going to feel as unique as the original film now that we've had the original film? And I was certainly pleasantly surprised, not just at some of the humor that's in there. It did get me a couple of times. It really did with some of the jokes. But it also surprised me with some of the turns that it decided to take. And by the end of it, I was actually feeling some emotions that I really, really didn't expect to feel. So I've got to give kudos to the script for being able to navigate that minefield of sequelitis, of dealing with the fact that you're not as original anymore and still feeling quite fresh and trying to and managing to surprise an audience that thought it knew what to expect. You're going to have some flat spots, and this film certainly suffers from that on occasion. But there are some show-stealing scenes. I won't spoil, of course, but the skydiving is especially hilarious. It's certainly worth waiting for the credits. There's a number of spots throughout the credits where you'll see some stuff that's worth seeing. There are some good moments. Some of the cameos from very famous actors, keep an eye out for those. Some of the performances were surprising as well from Domino, who I thought was a real surprise. How exciting her character was, how engaging she was. I was really rooting for her. It is still early days when it comes to the Pure Cinema hot or not rating, but I did put the vote out there to see who enjoyed this film. If you think it's hot, it's 3 stars or more. If it's not, it's less than that. And it's got a rating of 71%, which tells me that people are liking it. It's certainly a very good response from the hundreds of people that responded. Thank you very much for those that did. 71% is probably about right for me, actually. That it's telling me that it's not quite as popular as the first movie, and it was never going to be, because the first movie was really quite unique. But in different ways, this movie is probably actually better in some instances. It relies less on the jokes because you know, we know what Wade Wilson's like. It relies less on exposition because it's not an origin story anymore. We don't need to worry about a lot of that hard work to get to know the character. We know this character. We can just go from the get-go. Bang, we're straight into the action. We're straight into the story and plot. We can then navigate some other themes, which was actually really interesting. 71% sounds about right for me. I'm going to give it 3.5.
And last but not least,
Peter.
Any power you want to tell us about?
I don't have one. I just saw the ad.
You're in.
As always, thank you very, very much for tuning in to this episode of Pure Cinema. If you have seen Deadpool 2, make sure you leave your comments below. We would love to hear about your thoughts of the film. If you haven't seen it, it is worth checking out, particularly in the cinema with all the great sound and the big screen for the action. Obviously, if you like this video, give us a big like physically, please. That's a very nice thing to do for me and Emma. Obviously, Emma is not reviewing this film with me. She hasn't seen Deadpool 2 or Deadpool 1 for that matter. So she'll have some catching up to do before she sees this film. But do keep an eye out for future reviews. She's seen Tully and I want to see that one, so we'll try and review that one. If we don't get to review that one on video though, we are planning a video about our top 5 male performances in a leading role ever, which should make for an interesting debate. So if you want to see that and other future videos, please make sure you subscribe for more Pure Cinema.